Come here. Welcome to the Famous Foxes Aftermath Show, live every Sunday on Leicester Fan TV. Come on, you Foxes. Good morning, Foxes. How the devil are you this weekend? How's it been so far? Well, it's been a bit of a disaster again. 7 defeats on the road. Where do we go from that? But more than that, welcome to the original Sunday morning Leicester City football show, where you know what day it is. It's Sunday. You know what time it is. It was 10 o'clock, but it's now 9:30. So it's time for the Famous Foxes Aftermath show, run by us fans in here, for you fans out there. And you know what? Your opinion really matters. So get them comments in. Let's get going. It's kick-off time. Come on, you Foxes.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Foxes Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.
Morning all. Well, sorry for the doom and gloom this morning. 7 defeats in a row, 4 home Premier League games not scored in. What do we do? Where do we go from here? Where do we go? Are we relying on a 38-year-old striker for the rest of the season? Are we going to get someone in? I've got people coming on. I've got Charlie Carmichael from TalkSport. How are you, Charlie? How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on then, mate? Where do we go? Where do we go?
Well, it's a difficult question, isn't it? You're kind of caught in two minds, I think, at this point, as to whether we sort of start planning for life in the Championship and sort of cut our cloth accordingly, or whether we're going to go hell for leather. Not so much hell for leather, but, you know, give it a real good go in the transfer market and see what we can do between now and the end of the window. Obviously, we're a bit cash strapped. We know that from, you know, various reports, TalkSport included, reporting that we kind of balked at a £7 million asking price for Kyle Walker-Peters and instead have gone with Wayo Koulibaly for £3 million. Obviously, it looks like Tom Cannon's going to be going out on a permanent deal to hopefully free up some funds, but it does all feel a little bit too little too late. And, you know, obviously we were in this situation 2 seasons ago where we spent the money on Suter, you know, loaned in Tete Christiansen, and obviously that was a huge sort of anchor to us from a PSR standpoint. So I think we've really got to look at it this time around and say, well, has the ship already sailed? Have we already missed the boat on bringing in new signings to try and rectify this season? And are we more better off kind of targeting people who could perhaps more cost-effective younger signings who could help us next season in the Championship?
I've been going on since the Villa game, which was the Man City game. Sorry, that was it. Just before New Year, I said we've got to get some players in before the 2 home games against Palace and Fulham. We got one ish in, and he wasn't available yesterday for, I heard, 2 reasons. One because of the insurance and one because of international clearance. I'm not sure which one it was. But we needed players in, and all the fans knew. It's now 18 days. No, it's 19, sorry. 19 days, and we still haven't got anybody in apart from a 3 million or 2 or 3 million pound signing. We needed players in. We needed players out. We needed players in. I just don't know what's going on. People say, oh, it's a long process getting players in. Ipswich have signed players. Wolves have signed players. Even the Wolves manager said that he didn't want to leave it right to the very end or something. I can't remember the exact words, but he wanted to get them in now, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Wolves director of football spoke about the need to move quickly in the transfer market, and obviously they've done that. I think Ipswich are a little bit of a different case purely because they've had, you know, back-to-back promotions from League One, so their budgets and their costs are very, very minimal. Therefore, they're not in any kind of breach or risk of PSR. So spending, you know, £20 million here and there isn't an issue for them financially. Whereas obviously with us, we're very much cash strapped, so we have the opposite problem. But yeah, obviously we needed movement in the transfer market quickly. History tells us that that's very unlikely to happen from what we've seen in previous windows, and obviously the the Januaries that we've had in recent times as well has always been a very difficult market specifically for Leicester to navigate for one reason or another. So I don't think there was tons of hope that we were going to move quickly, but I think people thought maybe because of the sheer necessity of the situation, we'd be a bit more proactive than this.
Well, I'm just going to bring Tom in. Tom's outside a supermarket somewhere. He was there yesterday. Were you there yesterday, Charlie, or were you working yesterday?
No, I was there yesterday. He was sitting in the cold.
Were you there yesterday? Hold on, Tom. Were you there yesterday, Charlie?
I wasn't. No, I've just recently had a little girl, so she's taking up all my time and attention at the minute, I'm afraid.
You sort of found that out, didn't you, Tom? When the family starts coming, you have to. You were there. What was it like? I mean, we'll get on to a bit more, but what was it like yesterday? Because on the TV, it sounded really toxic, and it seems like it's only going to go one way.
It was toxic. Let's be honest, it was another. I'll tell you, the first 15 minutes, I think we played pretty well. We had a few chances. Vardy had a header. Ayew in the box in a scramble. I think goalie gets hit on his chest. Cross to the back post. Timmy Cassani could have done us a favour and at least put it in the net for us this time round. But, goalie makes another save. But then that was it. For the next half an hour, if I'm honest with you, it felt like Fulham just suddenly went, right, turn up a couple more gears and then just knocking it around us. And we couldn't get a foothold in the game at that point from then on. And it was backs to the wall to half time. Then again, half time we come out and we switch off. Another back post cross, another header back across the goal, flicked on, and Wout Faes hasn't got a clue where Smith Rowe's coming from because he runs around from the back of him and gets in front and scores the goal. Again, subs are made. Van Nistelrooy then takes a lot of stick. That's probably a bit justified because I think you're looking at it and we need to get back in the game. And El Khanous was the only one in my head for the whole time he was on the pitch, closing people down, smashing into wingers to stop them getting up the line. Fullbacks are getting, tarnished because he was getting in front of them. And he's the one who gets dragged off but you're leaving Mavididi, who had been lazy once again, in my view, in the whole game on that left-hand side. Didn't really get involved enough. Was lazy tracking his man going back for the second goal. He should have been in the box for that at the far post following Traore's run. He didn't. It turned very, very nasty. And again, you've got different fans around me in the SK1 area. Some are definitely, it's the board's fault, not, Rude's fault. Some are very much like it's not doing any favours having a go at the board and having a go at, Rude in that time of the game. But let's be honest, this has been coming from, since we've been promoted. Wasting money on players like Oliver Skipp for 20 million was never in a good value for player. He was never worth 20 million. Buying players from abroad, as I said before, it's a gamble. Ockley was always going to come into a Premier League survival challenge this year and being put up against it. It hasn't worked out. And then you're relying on older players and slower players, Vestergaard, Cody, to be up against young, fit Premier League strikers who are having field days at the moment. For me, until we sort our financial state out, and that's the biggest problem, our financial state is such a mess. We ain't going to be able to survive in the Premier League for many, many years to come. And this is going to hit us massively, go back into the Championship. And this is why I'm a bit like, what is the point of selling Tom Cannon when he's proven in the Championship he can score goals? And next year we could be going back to the Championship, slapped with a load of, different things that you can't, embargoes that we might not be able to go and sign players by the Football League if they have their way, because they're rubbing their hands together for us to come back to the Championship and slap something on us after us making a mockery of it last time. Players like Cannon for me should be kept, and we should be building now for the Championship, because if we haven't got the money to go and buy half decent Premiership players, we are not staying in the Premier League. Even if you went aside a striker now and maybe a winger, I still don't think we have got a good enough squad of players to stay up now.
Yeah, Charlie, just going on some of them points that Tom's made slightly. I mean, he's saying about we're not looking forward to the Championship, building for the Championship. How have we gone from being one of the best run clubs in Europe a few years ago, where all the clubs looked up to us, to being in this kind of car crash we are now? What's happened? Is it that, unfortunately, I don't want to say it, I hate to say it, is it the passing of the chairman, Vichai, and then Top not being overly interested? Because Top has taken quite a bit of abuse over it, hasn't he, just recently?
He has, yeah. I think there's definitely criticism that can be levelled pretty much at every stage of the club, whether you want to look at the players, whether you want to look at the recruitment, whether you want to look at the board, whether you want to look at the manager. Everyone takes a certain level of culpability for it. Obviously, the book stops with Top being the kind of owner of the football club, and I think it's pretty clear from the outside perspective looking in that he's not got the gravitas or perhaps the ruthless leadership that his father had. I think obviously a lot of the problems can be traced back to the summer of 2021, where we have these 2 consecutive 5th place finishes. We go on to win the FA Cup. We decide to sort of navigate away from this strategy of selling 1-star asset in the summer and reinvesting those funds into the team. Income, Biba Samare, Yannick Vestergaard, Patson Daka, combined fee of 55 million, no notable sales out the door, 7th highest wage bill in the league. Playing on the slots machines really with Leicester City's financial future. And, we have an injury ravaged season. Players play well below their par. And obviously, within 2 seasons, we're in the Championship and we're in financial disarray. So, really, a lot of it comes back to that gamble, I think. There was a lot on the line of the summer of 2021. And we decided that we were going to make the moves that we felt at the time were going to propel us into an established Champions League outfit, or at least a regular European competing outfit. And we're operating our costs accordingly. Unfortunately, that's horrendously backfired for everyone involved.
There's one here. Oh, Tom, you know me, I've always mentioned Seagrave as being a bit of a white elephant. Ever since Seagrave has got there, the players seem to be a bit namby-pamby. They're out in the sticks, they're out in a 5-star hotel kind of thing, where when they're at Beaver Drive, they'll go through a housing estate, see what the common man's like, and they'll be up for it. They've gone to Seagrave, and they seem like it's all namby-pamby. And like LCF Seagrave says, Vichai didn't want Seagrave. They've got this massive training ground, but they don't seem to be drawing the players that they want to get to it. And I don't know how that training ground is going to improve anymore if we can't get the players that we want.
Well, that's a rumour. The rumour that I'd heard is that Vichai was very against splashing a load of money on a brand new training ground until we'd guaranteed ourselves some Champions League football for many years, or got ourselves into a position and we're stable. I think obviously God rest his soul, he passed, and the funds then became available from the Harry Maguire sale and Chilwell sale, and they decided to let's go for it. Where Vichai, I think, would have probably gone, no, that money needs to go back into the playing squad and reimburse what we already had. I think Vichai was against the training ground. He didn't want to splash a load of money on a training centre. Why? He thought we were still in a building process. I think he was more probably up for redeveloping the ground first and making sure we had the European football and the money coming in from the commercial side of the business of ticket sales and hospitality before doing it. And suddenly we built a training ground that is going to be probably the best in the Championship for many years to come at this rate, because it doesn't seem to be working. The injury record as well, scary. We built a new training ground and our injuries seem to be getting worse than getting better. It's hard to tell if that's just because we've gone to Seagrave, but look, it's the club for me is in a mess top to bottom. I think Charlie put the nail on the head there. It isn't just one thing. It is. I feel sorry. I said this yesterday. A lot of people were debating if Cooper was worse than Van Nistelrooy and Van Nistelrooy was worse than Cooper. I think we have to take.
Let's not go in that argument.
No, but I think you have to take a backward step and say maybe, just maybe, that actually this squad of players is just not good enough, and there's just not ability and enough talent in that squad of players. And relying on a 38-year-old forward to play in, week out, to keep you in the Premier League was never going to happen. And maybe that is just the case now, that it isn't about who's manager. It is just about that quality of player we don't have in the team now.
Yeah, Charlie, I haven't spoke to you for, I think, since the last time we were in the Premiership, actually. When we got promoted, what were your aspirations for this season? What did you think? Where did you think we had a team capable of staying up quite easily, or did you, like me, I think, Tom, you were 17th, definitely 17th, maybe a little bit higher. I just wanted 17th and stay up. Were you that there was a few that said, oh, we've got a better squad than what's 17th. Where were you on that, and what do you think now?
I think what's kind of come to pass from what you can see from the playing squad, and obviously the managerial stints of Cooper and now Ruud van Nistelrooy, is that you can probably conclude from that how much of it was the players being far too good for the Championship and perhaps being Premier League quality, and how much of that was Enzo Maresca just being an absolutely exceptional manager and obviously going on to do well at Chelsea as well. The manager can make a huge difference. He can make average players look brilliant. They can implement systems in place to facilitate success. Enzo Maresca is clearly an elite manager. I think a few people would dispute that at this stage. Steve Cooper is obviously a completely different sort of change of direction, which I think was a massive issue, and I think that's probably one of the fundamental issues at the club in general is the strategy and the philosophy isn't necessarily aligned to go from Enzo Maresca's style of play and philosophy to bringing in Steve Cooper, who's got a completely different mentality and idealism of how to play the game. Even the recruitment strategy, it's kind of fragmented. You've got some people internally, some people are speculating that's Martin Glover, I don't know, wanting to bring in younger players like El Khanous, like a Coley, build for the future. You've then got, Steve Cooper, who's pushing for more Premier League experience, your Oliver Skips, your Jordan Ayew's, your Bobby D. Cordova-Reeds. So there's no joined up thinking there with the style of play, with the recruitment strategy. And that's obviously, come to light in a terrible fashion. To answer your initial question, pre-Enzo Maresca leaving, I was hoping we could stay up. I didn't think we'd be coasting in mid-table or anything like that, but I thought we probably had enough within the squad, within the manager, to be able to stay in the Premier League. After he left, I was worried, and following the appointment of Steve Cooper, I was a little bit more worried, and now it looks inevitable that we're not going to be able to stay up.
When Enzo, that's you talking about Enzo. When Ruud van Nistelrooy came in, Charlie, were you excited or were you worried? Because I was a little bit both, because I thought we might have gone for a proven Premiership manager because of the mess we were in. We weren't in a mess. We were 15th. We had 10 points from 12 games. We weren't in that bad a position. We could have had a few more points. And I was a bit surprised they sacked him, but looking back, yes, he did deserve to go because the style of play, blah, 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 and all that malarkey. Did you think Ruud van Nistelrooy was the right appointment at that time, or would have you gone for someone more reliable at that point in time? Someone like David Moyes, someone like Sean Dart. I know he was still at Everton, but someone that calibre of manager.
Yeah, I think this comes back to what I was saying earlier, in that the club doesn't really seem like it knows what it wants, going from Steve Cooper to going back to Ruud van Nistelrooy. If Ruud van Nistelrooy had been appointed in the summer as a natural succession plan to Enzo Maresca, I think you could really logically see that as a kind of development of the same style of play. The recruitment strategy could have kind of fallen in line with that, and you could have seen the natural sort of progression, or the way the club wants to be run. You look at a club like Brighton, go through Potter, De Zerbi, now Hutzler. They have a very clear model of the way that they want to play, and their recruitment and their managerial strategy aligns with that. With us, it feels like we've just flip-flopped between the two. And Cooper was kind of an acceptance of, maybe we don't have the means to be able to play at this level in that manner that Enzo Maresca wanted. So let's change tact. And then obviously they've abandoned that straight away by then going back to Ruud van Nistelrooy and saying, actually, we do want to play like that. Because to your point, if you had made that conclusion in the summer, then you would have thought, well, okay, a Moyes, a Deitch, etc., would have been the natural, logical progression of that, because it is just all hands to the mast to try and stay in the Premier League. But clearly they've kind of decided that they want to go back to this long-term vision of playing out from the back, playing nice football. Top's even referenced in interviews before the need to play like Manchester City, which we've probably achieved in recent times with Manchester City's form, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I like Ruud van Nistelrooy. I personally keep Ruud van Nistelrooy even if we were relegated, because I think that that's a good style of football to be able to build upon to get us back into the Premier League. I think the issue with removing Ruud van Nistelrooy and appointing someone like a Sean Dyche or like that at the minute is, if we're kind of accepting that we think we're going to get relegated anyway, is that the best person, the best model of football when we are going to dominate the ball in the Championship to try and propel us back to the Premier League? So I think right appointment, perhaps the wrong time, and not aligning with the strategy of the sort of overall direction of the football club.
I mean, I was just going to ask Tom this because he was at the game yesterday, but he's dropped out. He had to go. When the subs came on yesterday, especially when El Khanous came on, was huge chance. I know you weren't there. I don't know whether you saw it or not. There was huge chance of you don't know what you're doing. Do you think Ruud? I don't know how to put, without trying to be too harsh on him. Do you think he knows what he's doing in this kind of battle? Can you see him getting out of it? Because to me, El Khanous was playing quite well yesterday, and I did hear Matty Fryatt say he didn't play quite well yesterday. So I don't know whether I'm not sure. I know he makes the decisions and the buck stops with Ruud, but are the fans right in saying that? And do you think Ruud is, I don't know, chasing his tail, or I don't know? It's hard, isn't it, for a manager that's just come in, but he's on a 6-game losing streak, or a 6-game losing streak. Is he trying to chase his tail? I don't know. I mean, I've never been in that situation. You speak to more managers, you're sort of in that kind of it with the media and that. what is it with Rude now? What does he do now? And will he have that on his mind that he doesn't know what he's doing? I don't know how it works now.
I think it's interesting when you look at the case of like Facundo Buonanotte, for example, who's obviously a kind of a key central figure under Steve Cooper, and it's now kind of more on the periphery of Ruud van Nistelrooy. And when Ruud's been questioned about this before, he said it's nothing to do with the player, it's to do with the system, essentially alluding to the fact that we can't play Facundo Buonanotte on the right when James Justin is right back. There's just not enough defensive cover there, and teams are just targeting the left-hand side. So Jordan Ayew, by proxy, has to play to enable that defensive cover for James Justin. So yeah, when it comes to El Khanous, I think he's been fantastic really under Ruud van Nistelrooy since he's come in. He's really kind of breathed a new fresh lease of life into the team and has played very, very well. I assume Ruud's thinking yesterday was obviously to bring off El Khanous to have Jordan Ayew play as the number 10, but obviously more of a 4-4-2 out of possession. Ayew's more of kind of a natural striker, and then have Mkhitaryan and Mavididi on the pitch as all sort of more like fast wingers. But with that level of thinking, that's kind of more suited to a counter-attacking style of football where you're going to hit teams on the break when you've got, you know, the likes of Mavididi and Mkhitaryan who can run in behind and help Jamie Vardy. When you're, you know, behind in a game and you need to be taking the game to the opposition and dominating the ball, it does seem a bit odd to be taking off a player like El Khanous who can play in those tight pockets, who can kind of create something out of nothing. So, you know, me personally, I would have been more of the viewpoint to take off Mavididi, shift El Khanous out to the left wing and bring Buonanotte in the number 10 position. You know, if he's saying that Ayew essentially has to play because of the situation at right back, I see, you know, we did this against West Ham, I think in his first game. El Khanous kind of played on the left with Christiansen sort of pushing forward from the left, and El Khanous kind of tucking into form 2 number 10s with Buonanotte. Having those two both on the pitch feels like our only real means of creativity and a way of unlocking Jamie Vardy.
So you ended there with the words Jamie Vardy, legend, GOAT. He's done it. He's done 197 goals for us, nearly 200, nearly 150 Premier League goals. But 3 games, 90 minutes in 7 days. Was that pushing him to the limits yesterday, really? Do you think we should have had Patson Daka on? Do you think we could have played a 2 up top like we did the last 20 minutes against Palace on midweek? I know we did yesterday when Daka came on, Vardy stayed on. But could we have started with the old-fashioned 2 up top? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how old you are, Charlie, whether you know about old school football before 1992. There was football about then when we used to play 4-4-2. But could we have gone that way, or should Vardy had a rest? Because I saw a stat that he's had 6 big chances, missed them all, and his shooting accuracy was only like 40% before yesterday's game. I mean, it didn't improve yesterday because he was a bit anonymous yesterday, wasn't he? But do you think we should have rested Vardy yesterday, just give him a break and brought him on as an impact sub? 38 years old, like I said at the beginning, are we relying too much on a 38-year-old when we're just about to get rid of Tom Cannon?
Yeah, there's quite a lot to unpack there.
Sorry.
That's all right. First off, I'm a 1993 baby, so I'm a Premier League baby. So just about missed out. The kind of old Division 1. But yeah, no, I'm obviously well versed in sort of, you know, his historical kind of football. So I think to answer the question of whether Jamie Vardy's been overplayed, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but I'd say yes. I think the game against QPR, the decision to play him obviously in the cup albeit for 60, 65 minutes before he was brought off when we were 4-2 up in that game, seems foolish in hindsight. I can understand the thinking at the time being that, you know, we've lost 5-6 games in a row and we need a win, so we're going to go full strength for this game, and you know, obviously proved beneficial to sweep aside QPR. But you know, you looked at that second half against Crystal Palace and you thought those players looked tired, they've run out of energy. You know, first half against Palace was really, really good, really encouraging, maybe arguably the best we've played under Ruud. That second half, they just looked like they ran out of steam, and immediately you're going to look at that game against QPR and think, well, is that because that essentially that entire 11 played, you know, at least 60 to 65 minutes against QPR? You know, was that the right decision in hindsight? In terms of playing 2 up top, it's not something that Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to do. I mean, we haven't had it for God knows how long, since Ranieri, really, with the 4-4-2 with Okazaki and Vardy. I think, you know, Rodgers was always, you know, headstrong in the belief that he was going to play Jamie Vardy as a lone striker. Maresca the same, you know, Cooper the same. It doesn't look like we're really going to deviate from that. We had a very brief spell, I think, where Dean Smith was kind of making up a new formation every week in a desperate attempt to keep us. But yeah, no, I can't see it happening. It very much feels like Patson Daka and Jamie Vardy can't play together, or at least not for an extended period of time. It very much feels like a bit of a desperation last 20 minutes. Jordan Ayew's slightly different. Ayew's got more of an Okazaki kind of profile to him that could complement Jamie Vardy. So yes, he could play as a number 10 and then obviously a 4-4-2 out of possession in the press. So perhaps that could work, but I'd be very, very surprised if we ever saw Daka and Vardy start as a strike partnership.
I know, like you say, it hasn't really been a major thing. I mean, it happened under Rodgers, didn't it? I think Barnes got injured, so it meant Nacho had to play with Vardy up top, and Nacho scored, I don't know how many goals, he got about 13 in that short bit, and we looked absolutely fantastic. But going back to it seems like we're having problems at the minute in both boxes, up top and at the back. And I didn't realise this until yesterday, that it's the same lineup. The back four is the same lineup as what took us down 2 years ago. I didn't realise that. And surely their confidence is, I mean, it just looks, the longer it goes, in my mind, the longer it goes on without us scoring, the more pressure that gets put on the defence. And when you've got a dodgy defence, the pressure, if they make a mistake, that's it, game over. Because you could see the heads went down yesterday. As soon as that first goal went in, the heads went down. And it's very similar to the Palace game. I think Palace scored on 52 and yesterday was 48. And then very similar to the second goal as well. It was around the same time. It just seems like the first few minutes of the second half, the head just goes. But that defensive line, there's been no changes. It's the same defensive line as it was in the relegation season. And it is all about confidence. Football is a huge confidence thing, isn't it? And I don't think they've got the confidence anymore, to be honest, Charlie.
Yeah, I think you can look at both the managers and the players here. Speaking to a lot of Dutch journalists when we first appointed Ruud van Nistelrooy from his time at PSV, a lot of them said, good possession-based team, PSV, show attacking intent. Ruud van Nistelrooy didn't know how to sort out a defence. That was kind of the one thing that kept on coming up from PSV fans and journalists when you spoke to them about his tenure there and his season there. So that, that's a continuation of what we've seen under Steve Cooper, letting up way too many chances. And, when you've got a manager that's maybe not the best from a defensive structural point of view, and then coupled with that, you've got players who are individually not good enough to play at this level. I think that, it's a bit of a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Someone like James Justin, for example, Enzo Maresca used him quite cutely in the Championship last season. He was predominantly deployed as a left-sided centre-back in a back three, really, with Ricardo obviously playing on the right-hand side and tucking into midfield next to wings. So, because of his ACL injuries, because of what Justin's been through, he was never really tested in anywhere near the same level he's being tested at the minute. Not only with the level of quality of opposition he's facing, but also just the nature of the role he's being asked to play. You look at Victor Christiansen, he's a left back by trade, but again, the standpoint is James Justin bombs on at right back, Jordan Ayew tucks in to form this second number 10, and Christiansen forms a back three, so he becomes that left-sided centre back. Is that really Christiansen's best role as a left-sided centre back? I would say no. And then Yannick Vestergaard obviously looks brilliant in the Championship last season. He's obviously brilliant on the ball. I don't think anyone would dispute that. He's a great passer and distributor of the ball, but very suspect defensively. When you go from having 70-75% possessions in games to less than 50, all his flaws are kind of exposed horribly. So yeah, you've got these players who can play in certain systems, who can play against certain levels of opposition if utilised correctly. But when under a manager who's not necessarily defensive first in his mindset, in a system that's not necessarily playing the players in their best positions, and against opposition who are of a much higher caliber than what they were playing last season, all of that's kind of compounding to be a recipe for disaster.
I mean, this new style of football, yes, Vestergaard is very good on the ball, but to me, he slows it down a little bit more. It keeps hold of it, and we play too many tippy-tappy football, side to side, a bit Pep-esque, that everyone's trying to allude to this high level of football that Pep. But I watched the Bournemouth-Newcastle game, the second half. I missed the first half, but I saw the second half. And Bournemouth were outstanding. And there was about 2 passes between the defenders and the goalkeepers. There was none of this. There was just attack. Not attack. But there was none of this, keep it at the back, let's keep possession, wear them down. There was none of that. Bournemouth went for it. If Bournemouth can do it, why does everyone want to play this Pep-style football, which... Like I said earlier, I'm old school. I don't like this style of football. Yes, it wins games. Well, it can win games. But sometimes pretty football doesn't win you games, does it? You have to be a bit Bournemouth. They weren't Route 1. They weren't movable. They were quick. They were fast. They were flowing football. And under Brendan Rodgers, it was very similar to that, wasn't it? And then it died off a little bit, and he sort of he tried to follow Pep's way of doing it. Why doesn't someone change the system and come up with this new system of having two up top or playing free flowing football? Why don't we do that now? Bournemouth looked excellent yesterday, Charlie, but we just looked flat. It looked dull as dishwater yesterday watching it on TV, and it has been for the last few years, in my opinion.
Yeah, Bournemouth are absolutely exceptional. The job that Iriola's done there has been nothing short of phenomenal. He's a very sought-after manager. I think there was a lot of surprise when Bournemouth managed to land him in the first place, but he's proven his worth tenfold, hasn't he? He's been absolutely exceptional. I think, again, that comes down to the direction of the club. Referencing what Top said when we first appointed Enzo Maresca, he wants us to play like Manchester City. Now, if we're going to make decisions like, Enzo Maresca, like Ruud van Nistelrooy, and that's coming from the very top of the club, then that's not going to change. That's the way that the ownership see Leicester and how we want to play. Whether that's really us is a different debate. I would say that quintessential Leicester City is, roll up your sleeves and fight. It's your Martin O'Neill eras. It's you're winning your 2 cups. It's your Ranieris. It's your hitting teams on the break. It's being very quick and in your face. It's the fearless foxes. The foxes never quit. They're supposedly our mottos as a football club, right? So the way I see kind of Leicester's DNA, what the fans want to buy into, how we've historically been successful during our kind of heights of the 90s, early noughties, and then obviously 2016, has been this fast, in-your-face, pressing, aggressive football, hit teams on the counter-attack, like you say, quick zip passes up the field, not necessarily long ball, not necessarily, overly defensive, but just very aggressive, counter-attacking, quick turnover football. The decision was made to move away from that. I think when we had that successful period and Brendan Rodgers came in, Top obviously looked at he was comparing us clearly to, your Manchester Cities, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, and saying, well, these teams play in that way. They are the elite and we want to be an elite team. And this goes back to the thinking of the summer of 2021, where we don't sell anyone and we bring in £55 million worth of players. The thought process being that we want to evolve into an elite team. Elite teams play this way, therefore we need to play that way. Now, you could say that was probably naive thinking because we don't have the resources to be able to bring in the world's best players in order to play like that. So we've ended up in this situation where we've got kind of a beta model of what the elite teams are doing with worse players, and it doesn't work in a league where the teams are this good. And you come up against, yes, we beat Bournemouth, but I mean, God knows how many chances Bournemouth had that day.
I don't know how we beat Bournemouth that day, pal.
Yeah, so a team like Bournemouth come at us, out the traps, and unless you have players of the caliber of a Manchester City, of an Arsenal, of a Liverpool, you struggle, you get suffocated with that press. You struggle to deal with that. And I'd much rather, to your point, be the team that's sticking it on teams like that with Bournemouth and saying, look, we don't have the individual quality to be able to dominate the ball for 70, 80, 90 minutes of a game. But what we will do is you'll get unrelenting passion, desire, and energy throughout 90 minutes from us. And, if we lose the game, you'll come away saying we were beaten by the better team, but it wasn't down to a lack of effort or application.
See, I totally agree with that. I'd rather lose 2 or 3-0, giving it a go with a bit of fight, bit of passion, bit of spirit. But we don't seem to be doing that at all at the minute. It just seems to have drained completely. And the point I've been trying to make over the last few days, even yesterday after the game, was we've lost 7 on the bounce now. But people, they're trying to make excuses, but not excuses for rude. It's hard to try and... On social media, it's toxic on social media. I don't even know why I'm on there, to be honest. I shouldn't be on there, really. I make rod for my own back, to be honest. But it's 7 games without a win, or 7 games without a point, I should say. 5 scoreless games out of them 7. Hatful of goals we're conceding now. But people are now blaming the fans. They're blaming the board. They're blaming the upper management of the club. But surely the buck stops at the manager. That's what I'm trying to get at people. People seem to think, oh, yeah, it's okay. We're playing well against Liverpool and Man City and Villa. But look at the fixture list that Coop had compared to Ruud. But we play each other twice over the whole season. So you can't just blame the fixture list. In my mind, you can't blame the fixture list because we have to play each other twice, which I think is a ridiculous thing to say. Well, he's had a harder fixture list, but we have to play each other twice. But I'm worried about the club in general because I think if we go down, I think it's more of a when, not if. Unfortunately, if we go down, I think we'll be down by. I think we'll be there for a good few years. To be honest, Charlie, I think it's going to be a long time before we come back because players are not going to want to be there, are they? I think we'll struggle to get back up.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the assumption that we're going to get relegated, we're going to have to sell assets. The only two bankable assets I can really see are Bilal El-Khanous and Mads Hermansen. I think we can turn a tidy profit on both of those. I think the other ones, you're in a situation where we've been for years and years and years, where you've got your Buba Samaras, your Yannick Vestergaards, your Wout Faes, who are just on decent enough contracts. No one else is offering them those wages, and we can't offload them. So, Bobby De Cordova-Reid's been given a 3-year deal. Can you see him leaving before the end of that contract? I don't think so.
As well.
Jordan Ayew's on a 2-year deal. We signed for £7.5 million. He's 33 years old. There's these players who are just going to sit around. They're going to be very reluctant to leave the football club. They're not going to get better offers elsewhere. So, to your point, we make a rod for our own back there. I think obviously we've got the potentially impending charge from the EFL coming down. We could be starting next season on minus points with a worse squad and a worse manager than when we were in the Championship the first time around. So it'd be interesting to see. I would love to see us really start to promote the academy. I would love to see the likes of Ben Nelson, Sammy Braybrook, Will Alves, Jeremy Monga start to come through into the first team next season and say, look, okay, hold our hands up. We've made a lot of mistakes here. We can't splash the cash. We're going to have to sell Hermansen. We're going to have to sell El-Khanous. We're going to have to reset. We're going to have to accept that this is going to be a 3 to 5 year project to get back out of the Championship. There's going to have to be a period of stability. As part of that, we're going to blood the youngsters. We're going to bring them into the first team. We're going to see if they've got what it takes to play at Championship level and see whether they can, hopefully in 2 to 3 seasons' time, mount a promotion charge. But yeah, I mean, to the point we said at the start of the show, if you're going to spend the best part of £100 million on building Seagrave and making the academy this grand jewel in your crown, we have to see the fruits of that. We have to be bringing through these players. There's talks of scouts from Barcelona, Manchester City, Chelsea, watching Jeremy Monga, a 15-year-old playing the under-23s. The general consensus is that he might not ever make a first-team appearance for us because he may well get bought before then. You've got to create a natural pathway for these players. And I think going down to the Championship, as grim as it is an opportunity to hit a reset and then say, we're going to use these players. We're going to bring through homegrown talent in order to try and rectify the situation.
It's the same as the lad that went to Liverpool. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
I can't remember the young lad. He was only 16. Now he's in the first team, isn't he? Not playing regular time, but he's on the bench. He's getting minutes. And we need to blood him. You need to show him that, yes, put an arm around the shoulder. Yes, you stay with us next year, you'll be getting the team. Put him on the bench, even if he doesn't get many minutes in the Premier League. Give him that chance, give him that opportunity to play in some of the cup games, although it hasn't helped being the cup game against Man U yet to bloody get. That just no matter what, it's always going to be Man U. The last question I want to ask you before I let you go, much appreciated having the change of time for me this morning, is have you heard about the fans are arranging a protest at the Arsenal game?
I've seen memories online, yeah.
I'm not sure whether that is going to do any good whatsoever, because back in the days at Filbert Street, I think, yes, you'd have got the club acknowledging the fans and a protest, and it would have worked at Filbert Street. But now football is more of a business than it ever was. And I don't think a fan protest is going to work. A bit like the O'Neill banners we had against O'Neill. No, don't go for O'Neill. Peer point out, stuff like that. That worked back then at Filbert Street. I don't think that's got the credibility working nowadays because football is too much of a business. I mean, what's your views on the fans having a protest?
I'll make it clear firstly that these are my own views and not my views of anyone else. I would say, and I might cop a bit of flack for this, that our supporters have been somewhat complicit in this demise, in that we are too placid. Our fan base don't speak up enough. We have a lot of internal friction as to some people saying, oh, you should just support the team and remember when we were in League One and be grateful for it and blah, blah, blah. And you obviously get other people who are very forthright and saying, no, Top needs to sell the football club, or we need to, we need to get Rutkin out or whatever. And there's very much this clash, and there's no kind of unity there with, either everyone's behind the team and just happy to accept the direction of travel of the football club, or everyone kind of mobilizing together and saying, no, this isn't acceptable. And I think at the minute it seems very feeble and weak because you get these Rutkin out chants, you get this, sack the board chance, but you only ever get it when we're 2-3-0 down. You don't get people turn up at the start of games and say, no, we're going to set us. It doesn't matter if we win 3-0 today. We're setting up our stall. We're not happy with the long-term direction of the football club. So this is going to be, how we're going to mobilise. So a protest might be futile. You might need to do more than just the one protest. There might be a whole load of mobilisation and stuff that's needed in order to achieve any kind of change at the football club. But what I would say is, if you are going to go down that route, you have to fully commit to it. Everyone needs to be on board, and it needs to be during the good times, during the bad times. It needs to be throughout. It can't just be Fulham have scored a second one, right? Okay, where's Rutkin? Where's Top? These problems have stemmed back years and years and years. This isn't done just on the basis of losing one game of football and getting angry because you're frustrated at what you're seeing on the pitch. This is systemic of a much larger issue. This needs to be a 24/7, a campaign, a 24/7 protest if you want to do it properly. If you're not going to mobilise like that, then don't bother.
Just something they've said about the protest outside the ground, but Chapster 37 has said, do it when you're singing, when you're smiling. If you have a silent protest, can you imagine if there was would that actually, no, that would probably affect the game more than actually having a protest outside, wouldn't it? If there was a silent protest, that wouldn't be the best way of thinking about. No, because you need to get the fans up and going before the beginning of the game, don't you? Forget that. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans are conflicted in two minds of wanting to support the players and wanting to try and cheer them up to try and help get a result, and wanting to let their feelings known, and those two obviously do clash. So it does feel like very much during the 90 minutes of football, if we can, as a fan base, be united and try to back and support the team as much as possible to try and get them over the line. But before the game, after the game, everything in and around the game, let our feelings be known as to the general operational direction of the football club, then that's probably the best case scenario. Yeah,
I try and back them as much as I can. And I want them to do well. I wouldn't be doing this every Sunday morning for the last 8 years if I didn't want to back them. I just couldn't be bothered with it, and I just wouldn't do it if I didn't feel interested. I want the club to do well, and I try to back them, but it's just there's so much negativity this season. It's hard work, and I can see it being so toxic over the next few weeks if things don't change somewhere, Charlie. I'm not sure whether it's top, middle, or bottom. I'm not sure, but things have to change sooner rather than later. Or, like I said earlier, we could be in disarray for a few years, really, couldn't we, if things don't change? But like I say, I'm not actually sure what needs to change.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jason Bourne said this yesterday. He said that I don't think we've hit rock bottom yet, and I'd have to agree. I think there's many more rungs down the ladder that we can drop in terms of where we're currently going. So yeah, I mean, it's so sorry to be so cheery on a Sunday morning about it.
Well, after 7 defeats on the road, Charlie, there's not a lot to be cheery about.
People keep highlighting this 7 defeats in a row. It's also 11 defeats in 14. The Brentford game in between managers was a shambles. The run at the tail end of Steve Cooper. The performance against Forest was completely abject. The performance at Old Trafford when they were in disarray under Ten Hag was awful. So, this isn't just a Ruud van Nistelrooy problem. This is a much wider issue, at the football club. So yeah, it's tough. It's hard times. It's what I would say to fans is try and, get yourself outside and enjoy your Sunday a little bit. Don't get yourself so emotionally invested because, at the end of the day, we are fans, but we are seen as consumers at the end of the day. We are watching a product play out in front of us. We don't have a general direction or viewpoint. We can apply pressure to a board or to an ownership, but we can't do anything to actively change it. So, as much as you want to vent your frustration, just remember to have a good time as well, and don't let it ruin your weekends.
I would love to get outside, but it's actually hammering down here in Spain. You'd be glad to know it's not as sunny as normal. It's actually hammering down. So, right. Oh yeah, that makes a change, doesn't it? That makes a change. Charlie, it's been much appreciated you joining me on this Sunday morning, trying to cheer everyone up. I'll give it with one hand, taking with the other, but much appreciated, Charlie. Thanks a lot for joining me, mate.
No problem. Take care.
You're welcome. Cheers, Charlie. Thanks a lot, pal. There's Charlie from TalkSport. Much appreciated him joining me. I was going to have a little bit of a rant and rave, but I thought, no, what's the point? A bit like Charlie. Go and enjoy yourself today. Go and have a beer. Go and have an extra couple of beers. Take the dog for a walk. Do that. Don't get it on top of you. But I think that's where football is. Watching Leicester City is very much like Ryan's just joined. Before I was going to go, let's bring Ryan in. Morning. You just sneaked in there, Ryan. Just got in there right at the very end. I was just about to do my ending. How are you then, pal? You good? Are you happy? Are you disappointed? Very quickly, last couple of minutes with you, mate. What's your view on what's gone on this week?
Oh, goodness knows. Where on earth do we start with this? I just think this is getting worse and worse week by week. The toxicity is getting worse, and I just listened to your chat earlier with that other person, whoever it was, Charlie, yeah, and I thought he spoke really well, to be fair, about the situation, and it's not looking good. And I also saw on social media last night that there are going to be planned protests before the Arsenal game. And I generally think that that's going to happen.
I think it will happen, but I'm not sure how it's going to happen because, like I was saying to Charlie, back in the days of Filbert Street, there was more fan power. Now it's more business-wise. And also, I can't see it happening outside of the ground because it's on private land. And I can't see the club allowing that to happen. I really can't. And to be honest, I wouldn't back any kind of protest outside the ground. I think that's wrong. Nowadays, it's not going to work. So what's the point? I think it's wrong. Do you protest inside the ground? Yes. But everyone can do whatever they like. But for me, I wouldn't be taking. If I was there and I was actually going to go to the Arsenal game, plans have changed. I'm coming back later on. I wouldn't have been involved in that whatsoever. I'd have just. But that
I don't normally get involved in that kind of thing, but it's just getting to the point where most of the fans are at breaking point where they need to voice how they feel about the whole mess that's going on, because they can't keep staying quiet. They really, really can't.
Yeah. Like Ben's just said, something inside the ground, a mass walkout on the 80th minute. I know people have paid the money and they all want to go, but something needs to be done. Like I said, a bit of a silent protest for when you're singing, when you're smiling at the beginning of the game, but you want to try and get the players up for it. And if you don't have that, then that could be more detrimental to the actual game itself. I really don't know. Like I just said to Charlie, I don't know what's going to happen, where it needs to be changed, whether it's top, middle, or bottom. But something needs to be changed.
And we don't want to go.
Say again.
Yeah, I agree with this comment.
What, the bleak days of two? Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's heading.
Tony Smith, things have to change. Since Steve Walsh went to Everton, the recruitment has, yes, it has. Went to play. Yeah, you've got to see Johnny Regan for that. That's who you've got to see, Johnny Regan for that. He knows where to get a plane with a banner. He's done that before. Him and his mate did it before.
I bet he's going to come out with that again.
Johnny Regan, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think it was the Pleat Out one. I think it was. Was it Pleat Out he did it for?
Yeah, I think it probably
was.
Yeah.
I'll have to give him a bell. Yes. Yeah, it was. There you go. Paul got it. Ryan, I know. I was just about to finish, but last point. Where do we go from here? We've got
There's nowhere else to turn, is there? Because at the minute we're just at resignation point, aren't we? Because let's be honest, the squad isn't good enough to stay in the Premier League. We're heading straight back down.
We've got not 6 games left. Sorry, the next 6 games. Sorry, what was that from Dawn? I think the supporters. Yeah, I think the supporters have to do something quick. Yes, I really do think so. Thought every home game had a silent protest. They certainly did. I'm totally had enough of the club at the moment. And there's Aggie that's been going for about 100 years. Aggie's been going.
Yeah, this is my point. The fans are just... I've never seen so many fans feel so disconnected with the football club. It is so heartbreaking to see.
We'll be down, but yes, it is. It is so hard. But that's why I was trying to get over to Charlie, that I want the club to do well, but I can't see him doing well. Down to the Championship, we'll be down at the end of March. I'm hopefully coming back for the Man U game. Hopefully, we've still got a fighting chance. I don't want to come back for a game that's relegation, but I'll still be there, though. I will still be there. Ryan, we've got Spurs, Everton, Arsenal, Brentford, West Ham, and Chelsea.
Oh, God.
I know. The next 6 games. It's tough, isn't it, to see where the next win's going to come from.
Yeah, I just can't see a win out of any of them games.
I
Just
mean,
can't
we've got
see it.
Spurs away, Everton away, Arsenal at home, Brentford at home, West Ham away, Chelsea away. It just,
Yeah, just can't see another win.
I know.
Seriously.
I know. And how far do we go? How far do you go? 7 wins already. 70. I wish it was 7 wins on the trot. 7 defeats on the bounce. How far do you actually go before you say enough's enough?
Because our club record in the Prem is 8 consecutive league defeats back in the Peter Taylor days. And I could see us beating that record easily.
Yeah, slightly easily. Ryan, cheers for joining me this morning. I know it's been short and sweet, but we had to start earlier this morning.
Yeah, it's all right.
But yeah, we'll get you on again very shortly. Phil's on tomorrow night, so you might be able to get on there tomorrow night with Phil.
Yeah.
Cheers for joining me, Ryan. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you again. You have to click on a bit earlier next time. Rightio, lads and lasses. I was just about to leave before Ryan nicked on. Much appreciated for joining. Thank you for joining. We had to start a bit earlier this morning. I might even do it earlier every week. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's been pretty good today. Thanks for Charlie for coming on. At least Patrick says, at least we beat Derby's lowest. At least we beat Derby's lowest points total. Yes. Keep on smiling, folks. Yes. Cheers for the show. Yes. And for you, LCS. Very much appreciated. Just a little bit of homework before you all go off and enjoy your Sunday morning. Please like and share whatever platform you're watching, whether you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, like or share. Leave a comment afterwards. Let's help us grow even more. Much appreciated. Like I say, I love it every Sunday morning. I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you lot out there coming to see me in here. Cheers all. Ciao, ciao. Adios. Goodbye. Pods Veen. See you later. Come on, you foxes. There goes the final whistle.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.